Okay, Valerie, you give me the cue if I can start, if I can kickstart the event, you let me know.
Yes, sure. I think you can start. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to have you here. We are very happy to hold this event together with our social partner Europa. I'm João Albuquerque. I'm the Director for Advocacy and Political Affairs at EuroCommerce. And we are quite thrilled to have the opportunity to discuss this topic of LGBTQI plus inclusion in our sector and give a little bit of a oversight of good practices and cases that we have in a time where perhaps politically things are in a delicate phase all around the world, not just in the US as we have seen, but also in some countries in Europe. This has been the case in the past. It continues to be so. So I think this is a topic of the utmost importance and of course actuality. So we are very pleased to hold this event today, and we thank Europa for joining us and organizing this together with us. We will have a varied group of speakers. I will briefly introduce them. I just want to give you the note that we are organizing this around the International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia, which is on the 17th of May. So it's also on that occasion. And we are wanting to send a positive and forward-looking message that shows that European companies and workers' organizations defend dignity, safety, and equal opportunity in the workplace. The discussion will focus, and sorry, I'm looking to my notes. Sorry that I'm not looking directly into the screen. The discussion will focus on fostering inclusive workplaces for LGBTQI plus workers in commerce, highlighting good practices and constructive social dialogue across member states. We also want to showcase, like I mentioned, some of the volunteer initiatives at the company level that can inspire others, that can create the momentum and showcase good examples of what is being done. And lastly, the fact that the event will bring the spotlight testimonies of workers who are representatives of the LGBTQI plus community. I just want to give a heads up to everyone that is watching that this event is being recorded, so that we can have it for the future. And I would invite as well, if people want to on a voluntary basis, of course, if they want to express their pronouns in the beginning, just to help everyone. Mine are he, him. So if everyone feel comfortable with that, I would invite you to do so. We will start with Miss Jana Kukoczkova. I hope that I pronounced this relatively okay. Sorry for the assassination of your name. I'm quite used to it. She's a policy officer in DG Just, policy officer working on LGBTQI plus equality in the units, working on non-discrimination, LGBTIQ plus topics, age, horizontal matters in DG Justice and consumers at the European Commission. She previously worked on the topics of diversity and inclusion in the workplace, coordinating the European platform of diversity charters. I hope I got the information correct. Jana, and I'm calling you Jana to avoid repeating the surname. The floor is yours, and thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much. I wouldn't try to repeat your name, so I have a full understanding. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. My name is Jana. My pronouns are she, her, and as you heard, I work in the DG Justice, working on LGBTIQ equality. I'm really glad to have the opportunity to talk to you this morning. I am super impressed with the agenda that you have prepared, because you have managed to bring such wonderful speakers with great examples of real life practices, how to bring LGBTIQ equality, support diversity and inclusion in the workplaces, and also then testimonies from the workers themselves, which is always wonderful to bring all of these perspectives together. And I will try, in my very cold, affected voice, to briefly bring this all under kind of the umbrella, because none of us work in isolation, of course. So I would like to highlight how the work that we are doing at the European Commission when we are developing policies, working with the member states, how the individual legislation at the member states level is interconnected with also the work that all of you are doing, and how it then in the end tries to improve the lives of LGBTIQ people across the EU. So thank you again for having me here, and for just organizing this event and bringing all these different stakeholders together to hear and exchange and learn and be inspired. I wanted to start talking about the fact that for us in the Commission, we really believe that safe and inclusive, empowering workplaces are not a luxury. It's not a trend. It's not something that is just cool to work on. It's really essential for the dignity of people, for their individual performances. But it's also a driver of innovation and competitiveness. It wouldn't be a Commission presentation without talking about the fact that competitiveness is also a very important factor of this. But we all know that there is also research that shows that organizations that promote diversity and inclusion thrive, are stronger, are more resilient. They have less movement of the staff. Staff is more committed and motivated. There is less people leaving the organizations, and that for a lot of people looking for job opportunities, it is also a very important aspect when they are looking for new employers, whether they provide and they have in place diversity and inclusion policies, and if they provide inclusive working environment. There are approximately 35 million LGBTIQ+ people across the EU, which means that workplace inclusion doesn't affect only few individuals, it really affects millions of lives. And that's why it has to matter to everyone. It has to matter to the member states, it has to matter to the employers, not just large corporations, small organizations. And that is also why I'm truly appreciative also of the work of the workers' unions and all the other organizations and represented today for all the work you have been doing so far, and hopefully will continue to alongside us. As it was already presented in the introduction, we have been facing growing backlash against LGBTIQ+ equality that has been affecting, on one side, the funding that goes to organizations that work on LGBTIQ+ equality, but also has been affecting the companies and decreasing their involvement in diversity and inclusion actions, which is one more reason why we should continue and persevere and continue in our dedication. Since the adoption of the first LGBTIQ equality strategy, which we had between the years of 2020 and 2025, the social acceptance, we can move to the next slide, sorry. The social acceptance of LGBTIQ people has increased. According to the 2023 Special Eurobarometer, 75% of Europeans felt comfortable having lesbian, gay, or bisexual colleague, compared to 72% in 2019. So that is the positive part. We also can see, based on the FRA survey from 2020, the third LGBTIQ FRA survey from 2023, that there has been an decrease in the overall employment discrimination, down by 3 points from 2019, and also this decrease in the discrimination when looking for a job, a decrease by 1%. So that shows some positives. We also have to recognize that there has been improvement, and we have also have to recognize that the previous strategy has brought us LGBTIQ action plans implemented by member states, a lot of projects being funded, and so on. However, in 2023, 55% of LGBTIQ people reported experience of hate-motivated harassment, compared to 37% in 2019. This is a huge increase. And I would dare to say that if we would have the data from this year, this number would have been even higher. So the progress has been very uneven. On one side, we can see there is an increased acceptance, but on the other side, we can really see a steep rise in hate-motivated harassment. And that goes, of course, hand in hand with the growing backlash against women's rights and LGBTIQ+ rights. This means that we have to continue our commitment, and that is why also the European Commission has continuously showed the support and has then published a second LGBTIQ. Now it's called LGBTIQ+ Equality Strategy 2026 and 2030. This is a sign of our continuous commitment. As I said, Union of Equality is something you will hear a lot mentioned in the speeches of Commission representatives when we talk about diversity and inclusion. But I have to say that even if it might sound just like a slogan, for us, it's really something that we strongly believe in, at least when establishing all of these policies. It's very important that when we talk about LGBTQ+ equality in the workplace, that we really think how it affects daily lives of people, that nobody should be hiding who they are when they are in the workplace, that everybody should have the possibility to thrive, to live to their fullest potential. The LGBTQ equality strategy, when presenting it to you, might sound a little bit boring, but I think it's also useful to know what it entails, because I would say all of these aspects that are covered there have impacts on the lives of workers across the EU. We have developed a strategy. We can move to the next slide. Not in isolation. We have gone through a very extensive consultation process where we have consulted civil society organization, a wide public consultation with any citizens of the EU, consultation with member states, social partners, external organizations. So it was a very, very long and very intense process. And this is just to highlight that while we were building on what we have already done in the previous strategy, we really try to open and hear the feedback and learn what are the main issues and challenges at the moment and what we should be working on in this. We can move to the next slide, please. Sorry. The new LGBTIQ+ equality strategy sets out targeted actions to address the specific challenges that LGBTIQ people continue to face. We are also trying to mainstream equality across all EU policies. This is to highlight the fact that although the policy, the strategy is designed by DG Justice, where I work, it's meant to mainstream LGBTIQ+ equality across all of the other services of the European Commission. So we have a list of actions that have impact on the work of other Director Generals, whether they work on employment, whether they work on agriculture, health, or other topics. So we try to make sure that the mainstreaming part is very important within the implementation of the LGBTIQ+ equality strategy. And we have tried really to implement an intersectional approach to all the actions that are within the strategy, and to align it also with other initiatives focused on non-discrimination and equality of the European Commission, whether they concern disability, gender equality, anti-racism. So we have worked very closely with the colleagues working on this in these areas. We can move to the next slide, please. The strategy is organized around 3 major pillars, and I will present each one of them shortly to you, and then link it how this is linked also to all of your work. We can move to the next one. The first pillar is focused on protection. So we are committed to strengthening protection against discrimination, hate speech, hate crime, harassment, and harmful practices, such as conversion practices. We have, as I have mentioned already before, many LGBTIQ+ people still face hostility, threats, and even physical attacks on daily basis. That is why protection was one of the main parts of the strategy. The first main key action focuses on conversion practices, which is currently one of the biggest initiatives that we are working on, following also citizens' initiatives. And we have just last week issued a reply that the Commission will prepare a recommendation for member states on banning conversion practices. This is very important actions from our side, because conversion practices, as you might know, attempt to change the person's sexual orientation or gender identity, and then they have extremely negative impact on the health and well-being of LGBTIQ people. We are currently conducting a study on the conversion practices, and based on the results of the study and further consultation, we will issue the recommendation. We have also will be continuing with the initiative based on the executive scope of the article on harmonizing the definition of hate offenses online, so focusing on the hate speech online, but also on the hate speech and hate crimes in general, and we will be also working on protecting the applicants for asylum under this broader topic of the protection. Basically, this pillar has, of course, impact on the workers, as it affects their lives as well. But in terms of the protection of the, it closely linked also to the protection against discrimination. We can move to the next slide. Apologies.
Perhaps just for a hint of time, just to not to rush you, but to move a little bit.
Yes, of course.
Towards the.
I will focus then only on yours. Yes. On how it affects you. Yes. In terms of the second pillar, we talk about the empowerment, ensuring that people can participate equally economic and in the social life. And this is one of the actions that is specifically linked to the workplace is our work with the EU platform of diversity charters. We have diversity charters in 27 member states that bring together employers working on diversity and inclusion. And we will continue working with them. And one of the main actions that we have planned under this a part of the strategy is to develop guidance on inclusive hiring practices that should have a very positive impact on the lives of LGBTIQ workers. And the third priority, so we can move to the next one, is to engage society as a whole. This is to reiterate what I said previously, that for us, working on LGBTIQ+ equality is not something we do in isolation. It's something that has to come from schools, from streets, from the public authorities, how cities are built, how our lives are being lived. So that's why we will be trying to strengthen the work with the civil society organizations and with other stakeholders that work with us. What I want to stress from this, we can move to the next slide, because this is basically the most important message that I wanted to bring to you, is that you can, of course, read our strategy in details and be assured that there is a continuous commitment to work on the legal protection, as well as improving best practice exchanges and creating more equal societies. But this cannot be done just by the Commission, of course. We work very closely with different partners. And this is also to highlight who are the partners that you can also reach out to. So we can move to the next slide. It's very important to stress that we work very closely with member states. We have a LGBTIQ+ expert group that was formerly subgroup under the previous strategy, that develops guidance for member states how to develop and implement LGBTIQ equality strategies and action plans, and also encourages best practice exchanges. We work very closely with civil society organizations. We provide funding on LGBTIQ, also to member states, but also to civil society organizations. And we plan to engage with civil society also through the upcoming LGBTIQ+ policy forum. And then the next slide, if we could move there, I have already mentioned the diversity charters, but this is especially relevant because I know that at least IKEA, from the speakers that we have later in your program, they are signatories of diversity charters in several member states. Diversity charters is an initiative that has been that we have been doing for many years. We have charters in all member states covering 17 million employees altogether. And one of the initiatives that we do also with the diversity charters is to celebrate the EU Diversity Month. So actually it happens every May, which is currently ongoing, where we encourage employers, but also other stakeholders to engage in activities that highlight the importance of diversity and inclusion. And this is very strongly then aligned with all the work that we are doing. We can move to the next slide. This is just to close with a quote from our commissioner, and for me to say a big thank you to all of you for being here to learn more, for doing the work, because as I said, our strategy would be completely useless if people would not actually do the actions that are within it. So thank you for being part of the continuous change.
Thank you very much, Jana. I trust that you're going to stay with us through the whole seminar, to the whole webinar.
I have to leave for a bit to another meeting, but I will then rejoin.
You will rejoin.
So
Okay,
yes,
so
yeah.
perhaps we can make the questions all together in the end, and then we can
Yes.
already move to the panel discussion.
Yes.
And then this will also give you an opportunity to react and to comment on the questions that the participants might have. The following act, let's put it like this, is a panel discussion, gathering together social partners and companies, and showcasing a little bit of the initiatives that we have been discussing on LGBTQI inclusion in the workplace. I am very proud to present our speakers for today, perhaps not on the exact same order that they are going to speak. I will start with Carlos Miguel Santos, who is employer branding specialist at El Corte Inglés, which, funny enough, it's one of my first jobs ever that I had when I was a bit younger than I am today. Carlos is an advisor for employer branding and internal culture at El Corte Inglés, where he supports the Human Resources Directorate in the development and implementation of internal policies, well-being programs, and organization-wide awareness initiatives. In his employer branding role, he contributes to the design and the execution of internet campaigns, well-being initiatives, and engagement actions that strengthen organizational culture. Also responsible for the communication of the company's internal policies and practices on diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, ensuring their consistent dissemination across all teams. Carlos leads the development and deployment of awareness campaigns that promote equality, foster respect and diversity, and prevent and combat discrimination. He previously worked within the Corporate Communication and Institutional Relations Department in the area of internal communication, where he was part of the team that implemented the company's new intranet in Portugal, including the launch of the corporate portal and employee app. And finally, Carlos is also one of the internal coordinators of the company's national recreational and cultural group, promoting cultural engagement, community spirit, and active employee participation across the organization. Holds a degree in communication sciences from the Universidade Autónoma of Lisbon and international certification as Chief Happiness Officer, which is a title that I would love to have, complemented by training in digital marketing. Books Akinseye. Sorry also for the pronunciation. If I'm not doing it right, feel free to correct me. He's the Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion Manager at Inca Group. Book's career spans over 15 years working in the private and public sectors at the intersection of business, public policy, sustainability, and inclusion. He has joined the Inca Group's Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion team in September 2021 and is helping to accelerate how Inca uses its assets and influence to address inequality. Prior to joining Inca, Books worked for Unilever for over a decade in various global and regional roles in corporate communications, sustainability, and DEI. Books has dedicated his career to using the power of business as a force for good. He believes companies are a key player in creating socioeconomic prosperity for the many, not the few. Sounds familiar. He's a member of the advisory council of the Global Distributors Collective and is passionate about entrepreneurship. Books was born in Lagos, Nigeria. Then we have Filiz Sazoglu Durmus, Country Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Leader at IKEA Netherlands. Driven by lived experience, she's passionate about inclusive employment and creating environments where people can truly belong. Filiz is known for bringing others along by translating EDI or DEI strategy into practical people-centered action. She actively contributes to broader societal conversations on equal and fair work and collaborates with organizations across sectors, from businesses to public institutions, to help turn dialogue into tangible everyday change. And last but not least, we have Sitske Smit from the trade union in the Netherlands, FNV, representing workers in the retail sector, including IKEA and do-it-yourself stores. Sitske is actively involved in collective bargaining processes and support workers in improving their working conditions through collective labor agreements. A special focus in her work is the inclusion of LGBTI rights in collective agreements, such as transgender leave, protection against discrimination, and creating safe workplaces. Sitske works at the intersection of workers' rights, equality, and social justice. In the end, we will also have a message from Rodrigo Rodriguez, IKEA co-worker that works at IKEA as a logistics co-worker and has been employed since September 2021. He uses he, him as pronouns and started this transition process in Portugal in 2014. And during this webinar, Rodrigo will share his personal story and perspective. So, sorry for the long introductions. You have impressive resumes and impressive areas of expertise, which took me a little bit longer to introduce to our participants. I will start with the books. Please correct me in the beginning on the way that I assassinated your name. Please feel free to do so. Books. Inca Group at IKEA strives to support diversity and inclusion across all communities. My question would be, why is LGBTQI plus a key priority for the company, and how is it integrated into your broader business and people strategy? And thank you very much for joining us this morning.
No, thank you very much, Joao. It's fantastic to be here. Yeah, you got my first name right. It is pronounced books, and I use pronouns he, him. I think I get asked this question so many times of why this is important to us. And I think for us at IKEA, our vision is to create a better everyday life for the many people. No matter their backgrounds or their identity aspects. And as a company with presence in so many countries, it comes with a big responsibility as an employer and as a brand to really bring our vision to life in the everyday interactions that we have with co-workers, customers, and communities. And we take this responsibility very seriously. If I was then to go into the two parts of the question of why is this important for us, I think the first piece is really about the fact that we believe that it's good business to be a good business. And it was super interesting to hear Jana sort of talk about the approach from the European Commission. And I think a lot of our sort of work and our beliefs are also grounded in that. And we know that our growth and our success at IKEA is directly connected to social good in society, because when people are treated with respect, when they are treated with dignity, they can access equal opportunities. We know that communities thrive, and therefore our business thrives. And so how we really focus on creating a better everyday life for the many people is no different when it comes to people who identify as LGBT plus. And so to the second part of the question of how we do it, and I think there are three main areas that we focus on within our equality and inclusion approach. The first is we really try hard to reflect the diversity of the societies where we operate across our workforce. And very concretely, what we do is really put in the effort to ensure that we remove barriers to equal opportunities, whether that is in recruitment, in development processes, in succession, or even when it comes to things like equal pay. So that we can remove those barriers that actually may stand in the way of people being able to access work. And then connected to that is the second piece, because of course we can attract people to join the workforce, but when they are there, what type of experience do they have? And so the second part that we really integrate into our business strategies is really ensuring how we create inclusive environments through inclusive leadership so that people don't feel the need to cover up aspects of their identity. We know that when people do have to cover up aspects of their identity, it affects their performance. And that in itself impacts business. And so we actually ensure that we integrate this element of inclusion and inclusive environments and leadership throughout different parts of our processes and practices as a business. And then the third part is, of course, then connected to us as a retailer. We engage with billions of consumers every day. And so we really pay attention to how do we integrate those interactions with our consumers through our customer offer into our processes and our practices. And so we come up with solutions as part of our commercial offers, as part of how we engage people who go into IKEA stores so that they really are treated with dignity and respect in every single interaction. So we have these three big ways that we really focus on ensuring that what we believe is actually translated in how we operate in the everyday.
Thank you very much, Books. I will come back to you. I would move on to Carlos and a little bit of his perspective on El Corte Inglés work. What has motivated El Corte Inglés to launch the LGBTQI plus diversity and inclusion in companies initiative? Can you tell us a little bit more about this project and what was the driver behind it?
Thank you for the introduction, João. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here today. I would also like to do congratulations to EuroCommerce and Uni Europe organizing this webinar. Regarding your question, since 2020, El Corte Inglés Portugal has been developing several initiatives focused on promotion LGBTQI plus diversity, both internally and with employees and externally with customers and society. This journey started in specific contexts. On the one hand, the pandemic brought major changes to retail and created time to reflect on the role of companies and the importance of people, their needs and their differences. On the other hand, the company made important commitments, such as joining the Portuguese Diversity Charter and creating an internal equality committee. These steps helped to organize this work in a more structured way. After that, several actions were developed, for example, communication on important dates like Ida Hobbit or Pride Month, training sessions and talks with external partners, and internal awareness campaigns and informed contests shared on internal channels like the internet and social media, such as LinkedIn. Today, this work is organized in three important areas: recruitment, training and development, communication, and an internal working group with employees for different areas and locations helped follow the improve these initiatives. So we move for isolated actions to a more structured and continuous approach.
Thank you, Carlos. I think you are a bit frozen. We can hear you perfectly, but your image sometimes freezes. So I couldn't be sure that you had finished. Sorry for that.
Sorry, my pronunciation.
No. The pronunciation is great, and the sound was great. It was just the image that was a bit freezing sometimes. Sitske, if we can move on to you and ask you if you can walk us through how LGBTQI inclusion became part of the 2022 collective labor agreement negotiations with IKEA in the Netherlands. I believe you were behind leading this negotiation, so it would be very helpful to have your input on this. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'm happy to tell you all about it. So I'll try to keep it short. Well, for the new CLA in 2022, we first spoke with our active members, and I really want to address that because they are the people who work at IKEA and know how IKEA works, and they told us about the code of conduct. And that was a set of rules of how to behave and with respect to each other and that kind of rules. And they said, well, the proposals from FNV would fit in well. And that gave us the opportunity to go with some confidence to IKEA to get the conversations in the negotiations. And the proposals which relate to transition leave, recognition of various family forms and vulnerable moments in life stem from the rainbow checklist of the network rainbow of FNV. And this has been drawn up especially for trade union officers to make the collective labor agreements more inclusive. So that helped me to in the conversations with IKEA. Um, and and also we had a video of a transgender colleague of mine. And this video made a deep impression because she talked about her own experiences. And IKEA was convinced of the positive impacts on its employees and wanted to contribute. So you already said we have also a video for you of Rodriguez, an employee of IKEA, and he will share his experience with you. A general goal of these agreements is to see inclusion not just as a statement of values, but to anchor it as an enforceable right within a collective labor agreement to improve safety for the employees.
Mattia, I think, can we show the video or? Well, thank you very much, Sitske, for sharing this, and for Rodrigo to speak out and to share with us his experience. I think we will have time for a bit more in-depth discussion in the end, but I would continue with Phyllis and bring you up to the stage and to the discussion. As I mentioned, Phyllis is the leader on DEI topics on IKEA Netherlands. Could you briefly explain what this agreement, what this 2022 agreement that we have been referring to, what it includes, and what has it taken to implement these measures in practice within IKEA Netherlands?
Yeah, in our 2022 collective agreement. Oh, sorry, I'm very happy to hear it. Thank you, Zhao, for. I was already in the discussion, so I thought to start it. Let's start. But in that collective agreement, we wanted to make inclusion very concrete, and tangible. So one of the important elements is the introduction of the transition leave, in which our co-workers can get 24 times their working hours to use in 10 years during that transition, and they can choose when to use it and how to use it. And just like Rodrigo already said, in the past, co-workers who were in transition often had to use sick leave. But we believe that is not appropriate because they're not ill, just like Ricardo already said. And with this agreement, we created space for them to take time for the transition in a respectful and supportive way. And another key element is the use of the inclusive definition of family. So with this definition, we recognize that families today come in many more different forms than traditionally. And our policies should reflect that reality. And therefore, we ensure that all parents or caregivers have equal rights to leave, regardless of their biological or traditional definitions. And implementing this required close collaboration. It required us to have a close collaboration with the FNV. As well as strong alignment with our people and culture and colleagues and the business, of course. And it was more about translating values, so our key values, into a clear and practical agreements, so that our units can apply it in real situations. And I have another example. One of our co-workers became a father in a co-parenting setup with his male partner and another female couple. And he was not a biological parent, which initially created some confusion about his rights. And instead of focusing on the biological part of this joint occasion, we looked at the situation from the perspective of our co-worker. So simply said, our co-worker is becoming a father. What does it mean? And that made the decision immediately simple. So if you become a parent, you have the right to this parental leave.
Thank you very much for bringing these examples and to show the impact that it has on the co-workers. I think it's quite a positive and refreshing perspective to hear those positive impacts and direct impacts that it has on specific people. Perhaps I can go back to Sitske, still on the topic of this agreement, and then I will go back to the other speakers, but so that we stay still in this. On this topic, in what ways do you think, Sitske, that this 2022 collective agreements set a new benchmark for future negotiations?
Well, this set a new standards because it made it clear that inclusion is not only an intention, but it can also be laid down in terms of employment. At IKEA, we continue to talk to each other about the implementation of agreements so that the intention of the agreements retains its value. And the current agreements have opened the door for more agreements that increase inclusion and diversity within the company. And that contributes also to safety and to express the people that they can be themselves. So, and I think it's beautiful to see that there is a collaboration possible with the company and the union to make sure that the agreements you make there's always an intention behind it. So you can look at the letter of the intention at papers, but it's also very important then in practice when an agreement, is maybe not practical in the practice. I don't know how to say it in English correctly, but you understand, I guess. Then you have to keep in touch because there was an intention and you both agree to it. And then you have to talk about it to see if, well, where do we have to fine tune the agreement to make sure that the employee gets what he needs. And that's a benefit for all.
Thank you very much. Perhaps we can go back to books because we have been hearing a lot of the impacts that it has had in IKEA and with the collective agreements and the impact that it has on the lives of individuals of people, of specific people. Could you share a little bit of some of the key initiatives that you have implemented to advance LGBTQI plus inclusion across IKEA and how you ensure that these are consistently applied across different countries and workplaces?
Yeah, thanks. And that's a really good question. I think this the topic of being consistently applied, I think, is not the easiest one, especially when you sort of see a lot of the data that shows the differences that really exist across different countries, whether that is legislation or access to equal opportunity, or as Jana was saying, the cases of harassment and social acceptance that happens in society. And so our global approach is actually that we don't take a one size fits all approach when it comes to LGBT plus inclusion, but really ensure that we are staying true to one, our values as an organization and our responsibility, either as an employer or as a company, but also to the realities of what is happening in those local settings. And so to be able to achieve that, we focus on a couple of core foundations. So that we can actually drive collective action across the many markets where we operate. And for those core foundations, there are a combination of both internal and external. When it comes to the internal core foundations, there is a lot of focus on our code of conduct, for example, where we have zero tolerance for discrimination, harassment, and that's very clear across every single country where we operate. We have very clear internal guidelines that actually helps to upskill, build knowledge, and support all of our co-workers and managers on how they behave and operate within our processes and practices. We have core foundations around inclusive leadership awareness and training and so on. So from an internal perspective, I think there are very clear sort of non-negotiables, but also support tools and mechanisms that we put in place to ensure that if I was a coworker that was working in Germany, for example, and then myself and my family got moved, say, to another part of the world like China, what would that mean for me in still working for IKEA? And then, of course, we look at the external and what it is that we can actually do to ensure that we are showing up consistently across all of the countries where we operate. And I think this is where collaboration is probably one of the core foundations for us because we can't know everything. And so it's really about how are we partnering with local organizations that really understand the context, understand the history, understand how we can make positive impact in that environment and collaborate with them. And so together with many partners, and now that we are celebrating Ida Hobbit and have sort of kicked off Pride season, I think one of the things that we try to do in many of our countries is the raising of the progress flag in many of our stores, because that actually shows that we are inclusive, we are welcoming, but also that we try to sort of send a positive message to people out there that they are deserving of being part of society. And then also, in addition to that, every year, one of the things that we do is try to fundraise for many organizations that we partner with, and also invite our customers to be part of that fundraising through different initiatives that we might activate across various stores. We have an article in our range which is called Store Stormer, and every year we invite in many countries for people to shop and buy the Store Stormer article, for example, and all of those proceeds then go to the LGBT plus organizations that we work with. So there are different ways and different initiatives that we continue to build on to ensure that no matter where we are, our co-workers and also our customers can experience respect, dignity, and also equal opportunities when they are in contact with IKEA.
Thank you very much for sharing this. I think the perspective, especially when you're dealing and talking about countries that, as a policy, as a national policy, do not have this protection in the law. I think it's quite interesting and very good to hear from you. Carlos, I would also bring you back to the discussion, and I would love to hear from you internally at El Corte Inglés. How do you also perceive what is being done, but what are some of the biggest opportunities and challenges that perhaps you face? Because I think books also mention this as an external factor of challenge in implementing these policies. But what have you faced as some of the biggest opportunities and challenges when introducing the LGBTQI inclusion strategy, particularly in such a large and diverse workforce?
On the opportunity side, I would highlight three main points. First, the fact that the group in Spain, I supported the LGBTQI plus initiatives for several years. Second, the existence of teams focused on inclusive recruitment with partnerships in the social sector, and being part of Ready Portugal, the first business networking focused on the LGBTQA inclusion, which includes around 30 companies and helps align practices with others. These factors create good conditions to move forward in a consistent way. On the challenge side, they still exist. On the one hand, in a large organization, some situations are not visible. Not everyone reports discrimination, which makes it harder to identify. On the other hand, we also have different generations and cultural background in the company, which means different levels of understanding and acceptances of these topics. To address these challenges, we have worked on two levels that I mentioned in the previous question. First, creating an internal working group with people for different areas to stay closer to employees and maintain direct dialogue, and developing internal campaigns against harassment and discrimination with clear message.
Thank you, Carlos. Perhaps we can stay still on this topic and ask you. I can ask you perhaps as a follow-up question, if you don't mind. How do you involve the workers and or the trade unions in shaping and implementing these policies, these inclusion policies?
Yeah, our approach is based on dialogue, which means continuous and active listening to employees, as well as close cooperation with trade unions and representative structures. This involvement is put into practice through regular activities such as committees and employees group, including the internal group dedicated to LGBTQ topics and mentions before, and GRECI, the internal recreational and cultural group, which creates a more informal space where employees can share their ideas, needs, and opinions. This internal work is complemented by external collaboration through networking, especially through our integration in Ready Portugal. Overall, this approach helps us create policies that better match the needs and reality of our teams.
Thank you again, Carlos. Perhaps I can go to books because this will open then the floor to go back to Sitske and Phyllis, and then to move on to the conclusion. Books, as you've been working with various organizations, including NGOs and civil society organizations, how important do you see civil dialogue, also a bit in the way that Carlos was talking, as a permanent tool to engage with the workers? But how do you see this in a broader sense for driving progress in the area of LGBTQI inclusion at work, but also beyond, I think, as also you've mentioned before?
Yeah. No, another good question. And I think it, for this, I think I would go back to our values as a Kia. And one of our core values is togetherness, and cooperation and collaboration are so fundamental. And for us, togetherness isn't something that just sits on the wall in our offices. We really believe in this sort of village mindset that everyone can contribute to creating a better everyday life for many people. For us, as an employer that are so values-led, I think we recognize that we would always be on a journey to ensure equal opportunities and to sustain an inclusive work environment, because the world is constantly changing, and we want to ensure that our co-workers feel comfortable to be themselves at work. This is a part that's super important to us, and I think a lot of the collaborations and partners and dialogues that we sort of engage in continue to contribute to this, because in our last co-worker survey, I think 84% of our co-workers shared that they feel comfortable to be themselves at IKEA. And we take that number very seriously because, of course, we will wish that it was 100%, but we also know that this isn't the case for many of our coworkers when they actually leave the workplace and go into society. So for us, what happens in society is such an important part of the experience of our coworkers, because and that's where I think the social dialogue and collaboration is so important, because our many co-workers are neighbors and fathers and mothers and partners and friends, and for them to be able to do fantastic jobs at work, there is such an important value that comes from them feeling a sense of inclusion, of well-being, of belonging outside of work. And there are many examples where together with many of our social partners, we're able to contribute to make this happen across the EU. If we look from examples in Germany to Austria to Switzerland to here in the Netherlands. And so that social dialogue, the collaboration, the village mindset is so critical for us to actually establish long-lasting change and impact in communities.
Thank you very much. I think this was quite interesting, also in light of the political context. I think that we are living. It's great to hear that this has a spillover effect. Let's put it like that into society, or let's hope that it continues to do so. Phyllis, I would love to hear again with your enthusiasm, as per your view, what has made the collaboration between FNV, between the trade unions and IKEA so successful? We have been hearing a lot about this need for permanent dialogue and a two-way dialogue between the company and the workers. What do you think that has made this agreement with FNV so successful in the recent past?
Question, because as an organization, you do not know everything. We want to know everything, but we do not know everything. We do really know a lot about selling furniture. And the FNV has also strengths. And so where we had a strong vision and an ambition around inclusion, the FNV brought the expertise and the understanding of co-workers' needs and rights. And when we combine that, you can come to a really strong collaboration and a really good outcome. So together we were able to translate our values, the books I already talked about, into practical and concrete agreements within this labor agreement. So it's important because it moves inclusion beyond only the intentions and the writing on the walls that we were talking about, and it becomes a part of the reality of our co-workers, their daily, everyday reality. And the partnership with the FNV is based on trust. We have shared goals, and we have a genuine commitment on improving working conditions for everybody. And of course, sometimes it's a little bit like a good discussion, and that's also a part of the job. I see Siska nodding, and that is where you make movement. So you need those conversations, but it's always based on trust and shared goals. So that's the starting point.
Thank you very much, Siska. I think I would give back the question to you as well in terms of what you think has made this so successful. But I would also add, from your perspective, from the trade union perspective, how do you see these inclusive clauses in collective agreements be developed and applied across different sectors? Because of course, so far we have been funneling the discussion into a specific sector, but how do you see this happening across different sectors? And feel free to answer the same question that Phyllis just answered.
Well,
In terms of how do you see, why do you think that it was so successful, the agreement between the two parts?
It was so successful because we had a good conversation, we had a good dialogue, and we found each other on common grounds. And sometimes you have to talk through two subjects to find each other. So in first case, you think you have a different point of view, but in the end, you talk about the same thing. And that's when it comes together, and then you say, well, finally, we agreed about what we think is important for co-workers and our members to improve safety, and to say, well, with these agreements, we take a big step for them to feel and to be themselves. And I think that's a very important part, not only by IKEA, but also for other sectors to talk about this. By engaging in the dialogue, and especially about equal rights, anti-discrimination, accessibility, and safety, and then finding common ground on these issues, that makes it possible to make these agreements. Employers and employees together, also between different sectors, like our network we have by FNV, so that support is created, and therefore also ownership, because ownership makes it yours. And IKEA was a pioneer in this and had set an example for many other organizations that now include similar agreements in their own benefit packages. For example, there are similar agreements in sectors such as education and research, financial services, and semi-public organizations. And this shows these agreements are not isolated, but are a part of a broader movement.
Thank you very much to all of you for this insightful approach and experience sharing. I would like to, before giving it back to you and some answers and also perhaps final remarks, I don't know if Jana is already back with us. I cannot see from the screen, but I would invite everyone that is at the webinar right now to, if you have some questions, please raise your hands. Hopefully I will receive a notification somewhere in the application, because we would like to hear from you. I think the speakers have much more to share. If you press them, I'm sure they would be willing to go a little bit deeper also in some of the issues. If not, I can make a general remark, perhaps to break the ice. Valeria is writing me that Tiana is not yet in the call. Hopefully she will be able to join before we finish. So perhaps to give a little bit more confidence to the participants in the webinar, I would just generally ask, and feel free to answer whoever wants to address this. Why is LGBTQI inclusion particularly relevant in today's workplace climate, and specifically in our sector, specifically in our area of business, and specifically in a sector that is customer facing? So why do you see that these inclusion strategies are so important today? Is it the political situation? Is it other factors that you see as making this so decisively important nowadays?
Yeah, I think maybe I can jump in. I think it's a very good question. I think the if I take a step back and sort of reflect on the why, um, companies would in the first place actually be focusing on LGBT plus inclusion, I think to my earlier point, we, at least for us at IKEA, we believe that it is good business to be a good business. And if I start from our responsibility as an employer, we are a business that wants to fulfill our vision to create a better everyday life for the many people. And the only way we can do that is through people. And so we want to be able to attract great talent. We don't want to leave any talent on the table. And we know that in today's world, the talent market is getting more and more competitive. So if I start from there, I think there is a big focus because we know that we can attract fantastic people who reflect the societies and the communities where we operate, and they would be amazing co-workers to actually support us in delivering and fulfilling our vision as an organization. And so really leaning in and ensuring that we can create that diverse workforce is extremely important. I think if I then connect that to our sector, being a retail organization, we've got so many stores across the world that serves millions of consumers every day. We know that consumers actually want to be in an environment where they feel like they can be themselves, where they feel like they can be safe. And for us, we focus on home furnishing and life at home. And so if we don't understand what it's actually like to live in the everyday as someone with a diversity of identity aspects, then I'm not sure we'll be doing a very good job of actually serving many, many more people. So for us, I think there is this sort of need that is so intrinsic to who we are as an organization, not just because it's going to drive these commercial ends, but because we end up creating this positive cycle for co-workers and people who just live in there every day. And so that I think is a super important reason why supporting and driving LGBT plus inclusion is so critical, because it's the many people and it's their everyday lives and experiences that we are contributing to.
Thank you very much. I would invite the other speakers to answer the same question, or if any participant. I saw that Tina made a question somewhere. The issue of the lack of national protection laws in various countries, if you could elaborate on this. But perhaps I could also add, also building on what Tina just wrote in the chat, if you have seen any particular backlash in recent times on the rollout of these policies, or on the commitment from companies on these issues, not from the companies themselves, but from political authorities. this is not just specifically for books, but if anyone wants to come in, it would be great.
Yeah, if you want, Joe, I can elaborate a little bit more on it, because if we look at the impact of the agreement we made, so like the transition leave and the broader explanation of families, we also saw that it opened broader conversations within our organization, topics like pronouns or I don't know, gender neutral facilities, etc. But at the same time, and if we are totally honest, we also saw that about the fact that not everybody agrees on these changes, because we are there for the many. We want to represent everybody, and we know not everybody thinks the same way as we in this webinar thinks. So we have seen some co-workers leave because they could not align with these values. So if we're talking about diversity and inclusion, okay, how inclusive is that? So while it's a difficult topic, and it is difficult for our organization, we believe it's important to be clear about who we are and what we stand for as an employer. So and if we look at from a little bit further off, the overall result is that you want to have a workplace where there is more trust, more openness, and psychological safety. So this is what we stand for, and this is what we do, and we want you to be with us. Yeah, and if that is hard for you, if you cannot be open and truly believe in our values and in what we stand for, yeah, then IKEA is a tough company for you. Yeah. So we have seen leave co-workers, yeah.
No, yeah, I'm very glad you brought this up, because you mentioned some of co-workers that didn't feel so at ease, or didn't see eye to eye with the policies that the company was trying to roll out and was implementing. I would ask, perhaps on a different perspective, have you seen behavioral changes from workers that were reluctant at the beginning, and then had a shift in their perspectives and the way that they accept and see the other, and see a whole variety of people inside of the organization? Because I mean, regardless of our acceptance, the identity is there. People will not relinquish their identity because our lack of acceptance, or the lack of acceptance of others. So has this changed the perspective in terms of people that were initially reluctant, perhaps, that you saw happening through time?
Yeah, I do not have concrete data on it, of course, but what we see and feel is that the number, for example, of transgender co-workers, like 2 weeks ago, I had an interview with 3 co-workers of us in one unit. 2 already went through a transition, and we had an interview with them because we want to share something for Ida Hobbit on our local page. And they said to me that there are more people that are transgender now at IKEA than before. I don't recognize it because we don't have the data. We don't collect the data on how do you feel, who are you? But they knew each other, so they are a community. And again, it could be that it is because of broader societal trends that make it more easier for people to come out, or because we are increasingly attracting individuals who feel safe in our organization. And most likely it's a combination of both, but either way, it reflects a growing sense of trust and safety for us as an employer. So our employer branding is increasing or bettering, or I don't know how you want to say it. So this has come from out the community. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I have 2 questions here in the chat. One from Tina directly to Carlos, asking for specific examples or internal campaigns that you led inside of El Corte Inglés on these issues that have proven to be successful. And Lina also mentioned, perhaps in light of what Books was referring, but also a bit of what Phyllis was saying, what has been successful in bringing along countries or people that are less open or less aware of the situation facing the large variety of workers? What has proven to be more effective, let's put it like that, in changing the perspective in the minds, first inside internally, but also at large in society, in countries that are obviously less accepted of these issues?
So it's a good question. We have with us today some colleagues, Alda and Carla Olas from the El Corte Inglés. You can answer your question. I will now pass the floor to them.
So hello, I'm Carla, and I'm from the store from El Corte Inglés from Oporto, Gaia. And I've been with El Corte Inglés for the last 20 years, and a lot has changed within the company and in society as well. For the last couple of years, we have been doing some communication within the company with several videos celebrating Pride and essentially celebrating Pride. And now we are creating a working group to start to show, to appear, to show ourselves more deeply compromised with the goals we want to reach, and that is to create, to say, we see you, we are here, we are not going away, we work together, we are all the same, and we're trying to have a more I'm sorry, to have a more inclusive environment, and to have and to show people that we are not different from each other, that we don't need to hide. We don't we are in the world to show ourselves, and if we show ourselves in work, if we don't hide in work, if you represent our community in work, we can brought that to outside world. If in our works we are not afraid, maybe in the outside world we lose our fear as well. So initiatives like these ones, where that support us, that don't let us down, that allow us to be ourselves, are very important, because society, the world as we see it today, is not a very pleasant place to be. But I think that this conversation is unstoppable, because several years ago we just hide, we didn't talk, and now we are talking, and the conversation is unstoppable. And companies are talking and are including all the workers, and governments are talking, even when sometimes, like recently in Portugal, we get some steps back. But we are having conversation, and I think it's a good conversation.
Thank you very much, Carla, for making this clear. Alda, perhaps you want to add something very briefly, if I may ask.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Congratulate João, because your great moderation here in the seminar. Yeah, our company has been a strong commitment to inclusion and diversity, with practices that we are recognized both internally and externally. I would like to point, we have a strong focus on inclusive recruitment, working with several civil society organizations, and we also promote internship opportunities and employment. Yeah, thank you, and congratulate again Europe and EuroCommerce for the organization of this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alda, and also for being brief and straight to the point. I will give you all the speakers 30 seconds to make final remarks, if you so wish, before I give the floor to Annika to conclude from Europa. So if you have some final remarks, 30 seconds, the floor is yours. Titske, you open the mic so you can start.
Yes.
I
Thank you so
volunteer
much.
you.
Well, you mentioned an important extra factor for safety, and that's the customer. Because for the employees at the workspace, they are the face of the company, and not all customers are, well, react positive. And it's very important to mention that there's a role for the employer to have their back and offer protection, but there's another way to protect each other from some negative reactions, and that's for the role for the co-workers themselves, between themselves. And the FNV, we offer training courses, the bystander training, in which employees can learn what they can do as bystander when a colleague is faced with an unpleasant situation, for example, with a customer. So if you know how to act, you can really help each other. And this greatly increases safety in the workplace. And that is something I really want to mention here in this webinar. It's just not the employer, it's also employees among themselves to make sure that you are safe. And thank you for having me here also.
Thank you very much, Siske. I think you were cut for a little bit, at least on my side. I don't know if everyone, but we could hear you perfectly. It was just one brief second. I think your message was loud and clear.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe
Books, you want to continue? Yeah, please.
Yeah, of course. And I think very short final words from me. I think, first of all, a huge thank you. And it's such a privilege to be with the rest of these speakers today. And I think one takeaway for me is this year, the theme for around Ida Hobbit and the Pride season is to make room for love. And I think a very important starting point of making room for love is actually listening to people. And I think that has been one of the success factors, to just take the time to remove your biases, remove your stereotypes, and actually listen to people's experiences, because it's in that listening that we're actually able to understand each other better and actually create much better societies for everyone. So thank you for having us.
Thank you for the inspiration books. Perhaps, Carlos, you would like to be the next, or Phyllis, you opened the mic, so you made the mistakes, and I have to go through
because of the time. Because again, for me also, thank you, and it was really inspiring to hear everybody. Books, unfortunately, already said a lot that I wanted to say in my last remarks, but I have one addition books, and that was really my learning in the last weeks when I was preparing a lot of activations we do for Ida Hobbit, is that everybody still's learning. So I learned a lot from these interviews I had with the co-workers. So like removing the bias, but also stay curious and know that you are biased and that you do not know everything. Although I am in this field, I have a passion for this topic, etc. I do not know everything. So keep on curious and keep educating yourself and seek for people who can help you with it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Carlos, you have the final word if you want. 30 seconds.
Okay, it's been a pleasure being here today. And the last message is the companies play an active role in building a more informed, inclusive, and respectful society. In this context, diversity is linked to giving value back to society, fostering not only to business but also to social progress. Is my last message.
Well, since you have all emphasized a lot on listening, I have to say that it was an absolute privilege to listen to all of you. Also to learn quite a lot as Phyllis mentioned, regardless of how much involved you are in this topic, no matter how many years you've worked in it, you always learn new things, and you always find out new ways of understanding a different topic and a different perspective. But with this in mind, we still have to not have to, but we are privileged to listen to Annika Flaten from Europa, that I would invite to join the conversation. I would just apologize on behalf of Jana because she got stuck on the other meeting that she was having, so she was not able to join us for the conclusion. But Annika Flaten, the Director of Commerce and Tourism at Europa, also the main partner in organizing this webinar. Annika, it's a great privilege to listen to you and to hear your remarks in concluding this webinar. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I use the pronouns she, her, and also thank you to all our speakers, the panelists, and all the participants for today's discussions. And I think today's conversation showed something very clearly. It's that LGBTQI inclusion at work is not only about policies on papers, it's about dignity, safety, and respect in everyday working life. It's about whether workers can be themselves without fear, whether they are recognized equally, and whether workplaces truly reflect the diversity of our societies. I think we have heard inspiring examples today from IKEA, El Corte Inglés, FMW, and the European Commission by Jana. And these examples demonstrate that progress is possible where employers, trade unions, and workers work together through social dialogue. And what stands out is that inclusion does not happen automatically. It requires commitment, practical measures, and continuous dialogue. Whether it is inclusive collective agreements, transgender leave, awareness raising, or creating safer workplaces, cultures, these initiatives make a real difference in people's lives. And at the same time, we are seeing, and that also have been mentioned during the webinar, the increasing attacks against LGBTQI plus rights in many parts of the world. So it's even more important that workplaces remain spaces for equality, solidarity, and democracy. The retail and wholesale sector employ millions of workers across Europe, and many of them in customer-facing roles. So this gives our sector both a responsibility and an opportunity to lead by example and show that diversity and inclusion strengthen workplaces, businesses, and society as a whole. For Europa, of course, this work is fundamentally connected to trade union values. Every worker deserves equal treatment, protection, and respect, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. I would also like to take the opportunity to thank you, EuroCommerce, for the cooperation in organizing this event. And also bringing together employers, unions, and institutions sends an important message that even if we come from different perspectives, we share a common responsibility to ensure that everyone can work safely and freely. So with that said, I would like to say thank you very much to all of you, and I wish everyone a good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Annika. I will start with thanking you for joining us in organizing this. It was an absolute pleasure to join you and to hear to everyone. So I would like to also thank our speakers, to Jana from the European Commission, but to Books, to Sitske, Carlos, and Phyllis, also to Carla and Alda for their contributions, to all those that made the questions. A special thanks to Valeria that helped organizing and putting all of this together. She's tireless worker, and I think as a concluding message, I think we all got humbled by the need to listen, to understand each other, to not start a conversation with the bias and with the prejudice or with the predisposition of preconceptions. I think education plays a very important role, both internally in listening to each other and to understand one another's perspectives, but also as part of a larger community in society. I think we all have a lot to learn, and I do hope that education and that our sector can play an important role in making a contribution on more inclusive society where everybody feels at ease to be whoever they are and however they feel like to be. So I think we can have a positive impact in society as well. It would be already something quite remarkable and significant. So with this in mind, and having said this, thank you everyone that joined us this morning, now beginning of the afternoon, at least in Central Europe. In Portugal, not yet the case. Enjoy your afternoon, your lunch, and thank you very much. Hope to see you all very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.